right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the Josephine County Commissioner Candidate Forum, and thank you to all the candidates for coming tonight. One of the most influential powers as a citizen is exercising your right to vote. So we appreciate everyone coming here and being educated. The ballots will go out on April 27th, so perfect timing to hear from our commissioners. This forum tonight is hosted by the Grants Pass and Josephine County Chamber of Commerce and the Daily Courier. Tonight's questions and answers will be recorded. We're actually live streaming it on the Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel right now, and then we will share it to the Facebook page as well. So I'll turn it over to Lauren to introduce the candidates.
Hello, I'm Lauren. I'm with the Daily Courier newspaper. I cover City Hall, but today I'm talking to the county commissioner candidates. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the candidates if you want to wave and say hello. Mark J. Seligman, there he is. John West, Gary Richardson, Brian DeLaGrange, Jordan DeHarty, Mark Jones, James Ward is not with us just yet, not sure if he'll show up, and then Neigel von Hruska. Welcome everybody. So we're gonna go around and each candidate will have 2 minutes for an introduction, and then every question you'll get 90 seconds. Make sure you speak into your microphones. To turn them on, there's a little button right in front of you. If you're not speaking, please make sure that's turned off. We do have a timer running, and so you'll get buzzed at 30 seconds to know you need to wrap up. And it'll beep at you a bunch if you go over time. So without further ado, I will ask the first question. What is your top priority as commissioner? Yes, I do want to do introductions first. How about opening statements? 2 minutes. And first we'll have Mark Seligman.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Seligman. I'm a 26-year resident of Josephine County. My background is a BA in sociology from Queens College of the City of New York. From the same college, a 2-year degree in business administration, graduate work from Sonoma State in California in psychology, and in Encounter Group. I've taken several courses in that a number of years ago. I've run several times because I think it's important that people know the issues from an alternative point of view. I would term myself an opinionated moderate. There are some things you'll agree with me strongly on, and there's some things you won't. But at least people will know that I'm not middle of the road I'm not sitting on a fence. I have 14 years experience in going to county meetings, numerous meetings. I've been involved in debates on tax levies several times. One of the most important things for me is being here tonight because I see this as the World Series of candidate forums, and I thank the Courier for having this. You get to hear what every candidate has to say, specifically, hopefully, on the issues so you can make a better vote. Thank you for coming tonight.
Next, we'll hear from John West.
Thank you, everybody that's here tonight, and thank you for everyone that's streaming live and watching this. My name's John West. I was born here in Josephine County up on Dimmick, and I'm 59 years old. I'm a businessman. I own several small businesses. I've been very successful in them. I know how to manage a budget. I know how to make your dollar go farther. And I graduated from high school and completed college with a forestry degree. And some of my companies, I have a land development company, a mining company, a forestry company, a wildland firefighting company. So I'm pretty spread out with the knowledge of Josephine County and what we have in this county. I feel like I know this county from Williams to Cave Junction to Wolf Creek to Sunny Valley and Merlin and Grants Pass to the coastline. There's not too much of this county I have not traveled, whether it's interior or exterior. I talk to the folks all the time. I feel like I got a pretty good grasp of what's important to them. I can't reach everyone, but I do my best to hear from everyone and answer any questions they have. What I'm about is bringing a better government to you, a smaller government, a government that works for you and serves you, and thank you.
Just a reminder, that first little beep, you still have 30 seconds. So for the next couple people, 30-second wrap up there. Next, we'll hear from Gary Richardson.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Dumbo's feather. If you're all familiar with the movie Dumbo, this is so I can do it right. So, I'm Gary Richardson. I went through the schools here in Josephine County and graduated from Grants Pass High School, went up to Oregon State for a couple terms where then I enlisted in the United States Air Force, working on F-111 fighter bombers. See the world, they said. I got to go to Mountain Home, Idaho. That's where I spent my career in the Air Force. After getting out of the Air Force, I went back to Oregon State University, where I graduated with a degree in electrical and computer engineering with honors. After that, I worked for a small company in Albany and then in Redding, and then I came back to Josephine County working for a company called F.W. Murphy. I'm a registered professional engineer in electrical for the state of Oregon with 35 years of experience in engineering. I've served my community as a board member for Habitat for Humanity. I've been involved with running youth programs for decades and as a board member of Grants Pass School District number 7 for 16 years. I've been part of budgeting and setting goals for more than 700 employees of the district during that time. We have successfully navigated through at least 2 budgetary shortfalls, keeping band, music, and other programs that surrounding districts did not. And I'll cut it off there.
Perfect timing, all right. Next, we'll hear from Brian DeLaGrange.
Good evening. My name is Brian DeLaGrange. My family's been in Josephine County for, I guess that's all the time I get. We've been here for 4 generations. I was born in Grants Pass, graduated from Grants Pass High School. After high school, I went to the U.S. Air Force Academy for a couple of years before finishing my degree at University of Oregon. I got a degree in business. And then after that, I had a short stint in my family's business here locally, which used to be DeLaGrange Insurance. It's now called Insurance Lounge. I then decided insurance wasn't for me, so I decided to get into the energy efficiency industry, working for a nonprofit called Energy Trust of Oregon, who works with Pacific Power to help their customers reduce their electric bills. And I've been working for them off and on for 12 years now, actually a little over 12 years. I also have experience being on the Grants Pass Parks Committee a few years ago. I'm currently on Grants Pass City Council, and I'm also on the Grants Pass School Board. The experience that I've gotten on the school board and on City Council has been invaluable, and I think that that experience would translate very well into helping the county solve the issues that it faces. When I came on as a city councilor, we faced a $2 million budget shortfall that we had to rectify, and we did that very quickly. And we've been working towards the big issues that the town faces, which include housing issues and homeless issues. And we've started to make progress on these things. They do take time to resolve, but we are moving in the right direction on the problems that we face. So I have experience. I'm very effective in my positions, and I would like to continue that work for the county. Thank you.
And for the candidates, I've been notified, if you can see those teeny tiny red numbers over there, you do actually get to see how much time you have left. It's a bit far away from me. But next we will hear from Jordan DeHarty.
Hello, my name is Jordan DeHarty. I was born, raised in Grants Pass. I've been here for the majority of my life, and I really just wanted to try to run for county commissioner because I want to do what I can if I'm going to stay in Josephine County to make it the best county possible. When I was young and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to go into business, I wanted to go into engineering, I wanted to do a number of things. And I was going to school for business, and I stumbled into massage therapy. It's a very weird transition. It's not something I think happens to most people. Maybe it does. Maybe a stumble, a shift, a transition happens for a lot of people. And I've been in massage therapy now for almost 7 years. I work at a local office, chiropractic office, and I manage a team currently of 10 massage therapists at our height of 15, and it was the largest team of massage therapists in Southern Oregon. I teach over at the college in the massage therapy program, and I love what I do, but I can't do it forever. And if I can do something in this county, for this county, I would love to. I would love to represent the people of Josephine County as well as possible, and I would love to represent the younger generations that are coming up as well as I possibly can. Outside of that, I don't really have much to say, that I just want to represent everyone as well as I possibly can.
And next we'll hear from Mark Jones.
Well, thank you all for having me here. So I grew up out in the Murphy area. That seems a little loud, maybe I'll move it away. How's that? Graduated from Hidden Valley High School in '88. Decided in '91 that the fire service was something I wanted to do. So started my career in the fire service. That eventually led me to Phoenix, Arizona, where I ended up working for the City of Scottsdale Fire Department and retiring from them in 2018. At that time, nothing was keeping me in Arizona, so I convinced my daughter that it was time for us to move back to my hometown. So we moved back here in the end of 2018, and let's see, I did some work for the assessor's office for about 6 months, and then to me, I didn't feel like I was really helping people like I used to help people during the fire department. So I decided to do some fire prevention work for one of the local fire departments, and did that for a little while until 2021, when it was the fire district was put on the ballot. I decided to run for a fire board member position for that. So that was my concentration at that time, and it seems like it. I know. Did it turn off? No, it's still on. All right. So after that, just looking at things in the county since I've been back, seeing things that obviously changed from when I grew up, and not liking the direction we've been going, and in talking to some people, a lot of people tell me how their voices just aren't heard anymore, and that the county doesn't really go in the direction that they would like to see it go. So that's what prompted me to run for commissioner. I just, like I said, more than half my life has been spent helping others, and I feel that as commissioner I can help others in making sure that their voices are heard and that we move this county in a positive direction.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll hear from Neigel von Hruska.
All right, well, my name's Neigel. I'm a high school soccer coach, and I've been involved with the Illinois Valley Youth Athletics since 2017. I have watched our society degradate. We have a lot of hobos, and we have a big problem in the streets of Grants Pass, Cave Junction, and all these other small towns. So that is one of the reasons I decided to run for the candidate of commissioner. It's important that the people that run businesses in this town can actually safely run their businesses without worrying about having to jump over needles and do all that. That's first and foremost. And I'm really big into the urban camp thing, but it's got to be to move them in and out of our area, not to keep them here and cause more of a problem, not to make homelessness a business, to get them in and out. That's what I want. And I'm a grandfather of 3 boys and a father of 2 daughters, so I know the importance lies with the children. And that's it. Oh, and one more thing I must say, I'm sorry. I did get mentored by Bill Wagner, so I do know a little bit about politics. I'm not no rookie. I'm not wet behind the ears. I know a little more than most people give me credit for. And thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move on to our first question. Again, you'll have 90 seconds to respond. The timer will still go off at 30 seconds, so just be forewarned. The first question, again, is what is your top priority as commissioner? And first we'll hear from Gary Richardson.
My top priority for Josephine County government will be to smooth out Josephine County government. During the many years that I've lived here, I've watched the ups and downs, not just of the Josephine County, but the school systems as well. So my priority is to build those relationships and contacts with Salem, the federal government, other places, to bring in funding that is not an all or nothing. I would try to find layered approaches so that when one piece of funding might disappear, instead of going to 0, we go to 80%, which is something that you can live with and do. So realistically, my priority is just to create a more stable Josephine County government.
Thank you. Thank you. John West, what is your top priority as commissioner?
I actually have more than one top priority. One is we need to get permanent funding for this sheriff. Law enforcement is very important to this community, and we need to make that a priority. One thing is we need to make sure that county government works and serves the people of Josephine County. As I travel these streets and talk to people, they don't feel like that. They feel like that county government hasn't always been there for them and hasn't always served them and worked for them, and that's what I'm about. I'm about making sure that everyone in county government works for you, the citizen, and serves you. And it's my priority to make sure that we stay in a budget. We cut out any wasteful spending, and we use that money in the areas that it's needed. We have a $175 million projected budget this year, and it's grown $101 million since 2013. So I'd like to know what we're getting for our money, and I'd like to make sure our money serves you better. And those are just some of the areas, along with solving the wildfire issues and some of the cannabis issues out there.
Thank you. Up next, Mark Seligman.
My number one priority is to be a representative for the most vulnerable in this county. The most vulnerable people in this county are seniors. I know there's a few here tonight. Low-income people, fixed-income people, and especially our youth. A county that does not hold its youth in high regard will never be a success. I believe the role of government should be to protect citizens from fires, floods, and yes, pandemics. And this most recent administration did a horrible job of protecting people from the pandemic. Defending your private property rights. That is a very important priority of mine, and I'm strongly suggest people vote to repeal this ordinance that these county commissioners want. As a county commissioner, I would enhance businesses and individuals. I would enhance prosperity so our youth have a chance and they don't have to turn to drugs or leave the area and come back when they retire. And lastly, I am not for increasing taxes or land use regulations that take away your personal private property rights.
Neigel von Hruska, what is your top priority as commissioner?
Well, my top priority would be actually... My top priority is with the children. We have to defend the kids from the woke agenda, as John would say. Because the kids first and foremost, you start messing with their minds that early, you're gonna have a repercussion when they're older. And simple as that, if the kids get this woke agenda, you're gonna have more homeless in the street in the future, and that's a fact. So dealing with that, from the kids to the homeless thing, getting the homeless out of the woods. If the homeless are in the woods with their warming fires, cooking their food, we're gonna have fires. We're gonna have more and more fires. Well, I've had friends that lost their house in Selma because of a fire. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. So the fires in the woods, the homeless people, and the woke agenda, gone. Out of our schools, out of our lives. Let's teach kids arithmetic, reading, writing, public speaking, a lot more than that. And that's it.
Mark Jones, top priority.
Well, since more than half my life was dedicated to it, obviously public safety is a big priority for me. Making sure that the citizens are secure and safe and that they're not worried about whether their car is going to get stolen or whether their house is going to burn down. Knowing that when they call 911, they're getting professionally trained men and women showing up to their homes properly equipped and able to handle the situation that they call 911 for. So that being my obvious top priority. Other things are the homeless issue. It's getting really bad here. After being gone for a few years, coming back and going to Portland and just seeing how that place turned out, I'm just devastated. And I'm looking around now and I'm seeing it. And like he was saying, the homeless are going out into the forests and they're careless and they're starting fires and it's really dry out there. Our fuel moistures are super low. We didn't get the snowpack to make the fuel moistures in the trees high enough that this year is going to be bad. For wildland fires, and getting the homeless out of the woods so they're not careless with their fires is something we need to work on.
Jordan DeHarty, top priority.
So my top priority stems from the fact that I have been and always will be a problem solver, and I would love to put myself in a position to solve as many problems as possible. What those problems are exactly, I'm not fully aware yet, and I think that's okay. And I would love to have a chance to learn more intricate detail about every single issue that goes on in this county so that I can do what I can to put forth my problem-solving skills to help fix in all of those issues. All of the issues that have been mentioned, with homelessness, with fires, with issues with illegal marijuana, with the issues with all of these things that are going to be brought up over and over and over again, and the things that we're all going to be asked about. I want to just attempt to do my best to represent the people of this county and problem solve our way through as much as we possibly can. That's it.
Thank you. And lastly, Brian DeLaGrange, top priority.
Thanks. So the top priority has to do with funding for the sheriff's office. The sheriff's funding is coming up on a cliff in about 12 months or so, and if we don't do something to solve that issue, then we're essentially not going to have any sheriff's patrol division anymore. And we have faced that situation in the past, and it was not pretty. So that is the top priority. There are other priorities. I would say probably my second priority would be addressing wildfire risk and just the fire situation in the county with forming an independent fire district. We almost did that here recently. Mark touched on that a little bit, but having an independent fire district that protects all of the unprotected areas is going to make our county safer. It's going to make us safer, our homes, our businesses safer. It's going to reduce response times. Initial attack will be better, so there's less chance of catastrophic wildfires. So in addition to those two issues, those are the two top issues for sure. Homelessness is a big one that's obviously needing to be addressed too, and then illegal cannabis would round out the top four for me.
Thank you, and we'll move on to the next question. And just a reminder, you have 90 seconds for this question as well. And Jordan DeHarty, we will be starting with you for this question. how do you view the current relationships of the Board of Commissioners with the city government and the press, and what might you change if elected?
I know nothing about it. Zero. So I don't know what I would change. I really, really don't. But I'm going to say this many times probably tonight. I'd love to learn about it. And I'd love to learn what needs to change, if it does need to change. That's really it. That's it.
Right, thank you. And we'll move on with Mark Jones. How do you view the current relationships of the Board of Commissioners with the city government and the press, and what might you change if elected?
Oh, boy. Well, I've only seen a couple incidents between the commissioners and the city council or mayor. Any government, being, try to figure out how to say this. So we need to work together, and that's what it comes down to, bottom line. City governments, whether it be the city of Grants Pass, city of Cave Junction, and the county commissioners, all need to work together so that our focus is on what's best for the citizens, and that we move forward in a positive direction and make sure the citizens are having their voices heard, and that we're moving in that direction. As far as with the newspaper and the not commenting and things on stuff, you got to let the people know. It kind of comes down to the whole transparency thing, making sure that your ideas and things are getting out to the public so they know what you're thinking as a commissioner. So.
Thank you. All right, Neigel van Hruska. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I think I still remember it. All right, so the county commissioners and the paper, basically, seems like they have a little bit of problems communicating with each other. You sort of got to know who you're dealing with when you're doing an interview, and you got to tread lightly. So the county commissioners need to work a little bit better on the way they communicate with people. And I think a good leader would actually bring people in together so they'd quit fighting, and that's what you guys are actually looking for. So communication better, and quit being babies. That's about it.
All right, thank you. And Mark Seligman?
The press, meaning the Daily Courier, who's putting on this forum tonight, thank you again, has had an antagonistic relationship with the board. All the press is trying to do is inform the public what is going on. And the county commissioners, in a sense, what the press is doing is what I've been doing for 12 years, acting as a county critic and as a watchdog on government so that you, the citizens, can really know what's going on. These county commissioners don't like that. They don't want to give interviews. As far as the city goes, it's also a little bit, not quite as bad, but also an antagonistic situation. I know when Brian was dealing with the homeless, Commissioner DeYoung was rather antagonistic because they had different views what to do with the homeless than the city. So basically, COVID is another example of how the county did everything they could to defy mandates, and the press brought it up. Again, the most important role of government is to protect its citizens from things like pandemics, and that's the last thing the county commissioners wanted the people to know. So this kind of relationship will stop with me as county commissioner. It's always good to have some difference of an opinion, but not when the public winds up suffering because of it.
All right, thank you. And John West.
Well, that's a real loaded question there. So as far as the press, all I ask out of the press is to be honest. Put down what I say. And if I'm your county commissioner, I have no problem with you asking me questions, but print what I say. Don't print what you want to say. So, and that's as far as I really want to go with the press thing. I think that we need the press, but we just need them to be honest. So, to the city council, we have two layers of government here. We have the county commissioners, and then we have the city council and the mayor. And so we have one form of government that works for the county, and the county commissioners also work in hand with the city, because we are the commissioners of all of this county, not just the outskirts. So it's important that we work with the city council in every area we can. And it's not always worked that good. It's my job to, if you elect me, to work with them and try to solve the problems inside the city that they need help with. The commissioners can help, but we need to grow up and work together and not work against each other.
All right, thank you. And Gary Richardson.
Well, the city council has a narrow constituency, and the views of those citizens are vastly different than some of the more rural parts of Josephine County. The county commissioners get an earful from the rural residents of the county, and they have a very different view. And because of those two different views, you have to build the relationships to come to solutions that solve the problems for each. And too often, what we find is each side gets entrenched with the benefits they're looking for, and they forget to make the trade-offs that don't matter to them for the other party. So I see it as relationship building. And I've been on the school board for 16 years. I've been available to the press. I don't know that I have any particular issue with any of the reporters or the paper. I've talked to them. You just have to know that when the article comes out in the paper, it's not going to be perfect the first time. And that's not the theory of a free press. The theory of a free press is that over time, the right answer will come out.
All right, thank you. And Brian DeLaGrange.
Thanks. So the relationships between the Board of Commissioners and the Grants Pass City Council, I would say currently is almost non-existent. The commissioners try to control the relationship. So we have had a difficult time working with them, honestly. So I think that I am uniquely positioned to help build that relationship. I have relationships with all of the existing counselors. I've met some of the counselors in Cave Junction. I haven't really gotten to build those relationships yet, but I'm eager to do so. So I feel that I have a good, I'm positioned well to help the commissioner's office and the city council and Cave Junction all start working better together. I don't have any issue with any of our local press. I've always called them back and given interviews, whether it's the newspaper or the TV stations or the radio stations. So I think there's a lot of improvement that can be done with the relationship between the commissioner's office and the city. So I hope that we can get there.
Okay, thank you. This one's a mouthful, so you're going to have to bear with me. And John West, you'll be answering first. So over 82% of the county's budget is restricted, meaning it cannot be diverted to general programs. How would you go about identifying new revenue or making cuts to the sheriff's office to stave off a funding gap estimated as high as $5.4 million? And why do you think the commissioners haven't done it yet? John West.
Well, I can't speak for the commissioners why they haven't done it. That's up to them why they haven't done it. And as far as your numbers, I think you used the word cut of the sheriffs. I don't think nobody's trying to cut the sheriff. I think they're trying to find funding. So maybe that was, maybe I took that wrong. But if we have a $175 million budget today, and we were way less than that, and we've been going up on an average of $11,909,633 per year since 2013. So when we talk about 83%, I get that. That money comes in from grant money and other funding, and we can't touch that. But I have not talked to one citizen that doesn't believe that government does not waste money somewhere and there's not something that can't be cut. And there is money that can be cut in that other 17% and possibly slid over to help pay for the $4.5 million shortfall of the sheriff. And it would be my job as your county commissioner to go in there and find that money and to use it. But I'm not going to speak for what the commissioners are doing or aren't doing, because that's up to them.
Thank you. Next up, Mark Jones. Would you like me to repeat the question? It's a long one.
Yeah, if you could repeat it,
Absolutely.
please.
So over 82% of the county's budget is restricted, meaning it cannot be diverted to general programs. How would you go about identifying new revenue or making cuts to the sheriff's office to stave off a funding gap estimated as high as $5.4 million? And why do you think the commissioners haven't done it yet?
Well, like John, I can't speak for the current commissioners and why they haven't done anything. Looking at the budget for 22-23, I don't see a whole lot of fat that can be cut. I'm sure there are some in certain areas. But as far as law enforcement, again, we're currently at 20 hours patrol. We need to get to 24. We need more staffing. We need a larger patrol unit for a county this size. So we need to come together and find different revenue streams. I've thought of a couple different ones, and there's a lot of moving parts. But using either like a business license fee and working with high hazard businesses, starting with the cannabis industry and going into other businesses, and utilize a public safety fund with that. The main thing is, and I'll make it quick since I'm running out of time, the 23-24 budget, we're going to be back to the 2012's Sheriff's Department, one sheriff and a deputy, 8 to 5. So right now, a viable option is the seasonal sales tax. And I don't like the idea of sales tax. I experienced it in Arizona, and it was not pretty. However, if we do it as a trial run for 2 years and see if it works, we can try it. It's an option.
Thank you. Next up, Mark Seligman.
Yes. As far as the sheriff's budget is concerned, a little bit of history. Again, 12 years I've been watching all this history. The sheriff has had in the last few years, the last 7 years, 2 levies passed. He did not go into contingency funds in 2015 or 16 when the public really needed deputies. He did not go into the road fund. Instead, he relied upon a levy, which he finally got. He's $4.5 million in debt because now he went into the contingency funds. He's getting $5 million in marijuana funding if he applies for it. The best form of law enforcement is prosperity. If we have more people with money in their pockets and room for upward mobility, we have less crime. The solution given by most people who want taxes is, well, a temporary levy. But I guarantee you, the only solution they'll ever have in the end is a taxing district that never goes away. We cannot tax the most vulnerable in our county. We cannot burden them further. We need to enhance job growth so that we have less crime, better values, and our youth can stay here. And if they stay here and turn to drugs, you have more crime. If they have a decent job, you have less crime. That's the best form of law enforcement, not putting more on the taxpayer.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Neigel, and I'm going to repeat the question. James Ward, thanks for joining us. The question is, over 82% of the county's budget is restricted, meaning it cannot be diverted to general programs. How would you go about identifying new revenue or making cuts to the sheriff's office to stave off a funding gap estimated as high as $5.4 million? Why do you think the commissioners haven't done it yet?
Okay, well, I think maybe sometimes some people are afraid to step up to the plate. You got to get rid of the employees that aren't doing their jobs well, first and foremost. You got to hire high achievers. I mean, I've had people, one person work for me that did the job as 3 or 4 men. That's the kind of people you have to hire. You have to get great people. And the sheriff, they're going to have to face it. There's going to be a cutback. The people aren't going to vote the taxes in. So men like us are going to have to step up to the plate and take it to the criminals on the street. That's just what we're going to have to do. I hate to say it. And then if you want some revenue for the sheriff's department, try Walmart and Home Depot. They just let people steal from their stores, and then they sell all that stuff on the streets, and you have a whole new drug world on the streets. So first and foremost, maybe a franchise tax, not necessarily franchise tax, but let's just call it the big box store tax, because they're not doing their job in security. They just let anybody run out there willy-nilly. And I know their hands are tied with insurance and things like that, but we have to step up to the plate and fight crime head on, not with our tails between our legs. Thank you.
Brian DeLaGrange.
Thank you. So just to be clear, a few weeks ago, it was a $4.5 million cut, but since the new county budget came out, it is now $5.4 million. So it's gone up about $1 million since a month ago. I think the reason the current commissioners haven't done anything about it is because it's not a particularly easy problem to solve. And the solution honestly lies in probably some sort of temporary levy or a taxing district to permanently fund the sheriff's office. And those aren't options that they're willing to stand behind or bring forward. There have been some other ideas floated that can help supplement one of those sources. I don't know at this point that any of those would be able to fully cover that $5.4 million per year gap. That's a huge gap. So I think a solution probably looks like a mix of some of these ideas that are being floated and a temporary levy until we can vet the ideas, because it's going to take some time to figure out if we can make them work. And then once we figure out what works and what doesn't, hopefully we can come back with a lower permanent rate, and then we won't have to deal with this issue anymore.
Thank you. James Ward. Over 82% of the county's budget is restricted, meaning it cannot be diverted to general programs. How would you go about identifying new revenue or making cuts to the sheriff's office to stave off a funding gap estimated as high as $5.4 million? Why do you think the commissioners have not done it yet?
Well, I think that we have to decide whether we want somebody as a politician or someone who is a patriot. Now, a patriot, Mark Twain said, is despised, like me as a combat vet. The Roman soldiers lived on a viaduct. You see homeless vets everywhere here. So what do? I lose $500,000 if I take $90,000 here. So I lose money if I become your commissioner. Why am I doing this? So I'm going to donate my total money I would get as a commissioner, plus the benefits. Your benefits nowhere meet what I have with TRICARE, Medicare, and so forth. I don't need you. As I said before, my total income goes to the sheriff. My total income benefit goes to some project. How do I do that?
Thank you. Sorry, we have to cut you off at 90 seconds. We have 90 seconds for each question. And next we'll hear from Jordan DeHarty.
Okay.
Hello again. So I'm not here to speak ill about any of the current county commissioners, but I am here to represent myself and the fact that I want to represent people. And I think that many people probably don't want more taxes. So I would look into every budget in this county and do what I could to cut as much fat as possible before I went and tried to reach into anyone else's pockets to try to take any more money from anyone in this county. If we absolutely need it, I will do what I can to look into every other resource for funding possible. I do not want to have to put people through more taxation if I do not have to. And I don't see a reason why anyone else would. I think that that seems to be some amount of a consensus here to try to find the appropriate funds and try to find things where we can. I do not care if I step on people's toes. I would happily build as many good relationships as possible with the people in government here. But if I have to fire people, if I have to cut budgets, I don't care. I'm not here to make friends with other politicians. I'm here to support and represent the people of Josephine County. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Gary Richardson.
Well, I don't have an immediate solution to the sheriff's budget shortfall. It takes time to work out the relationships for the necessary changes. What I do know is that come July, if something hasn't happened, we're going to have to come up with some bridge funding from July to November, which might actually involve, I mean, this is even if we pass a levy because it wouldn't get collected until November. So then we'd have to borrow money to do that, which just puts you farther in the hole. As I mentioned, excuse me, as I mentioned earlier, I prefer a layered approach. And so the out-of-county property owner fee would get us a small piece of what's needed to help out with the sheriff. The lodging tax that they have in the city has to be spent 70-30, so only 30% of that would be available to go to the sheriff, but it would be something. And in the longer term, the franchise tax on the right-of-way for the power poles would be something we'd have to work with the state, which would bring in a piece of that layered approach I'm talking about for sheriff's funding.
All right, thank you. And we're going to move on to the fourth question. And James Ward, we are going to begin with you. The question is, would you vote to repeal the county's recently passed code enforcement ordinance? And do you think additional ordinance changes should be made related to illegal marijuana?
No, it sucks. Marijuana is a problem. It's a problem we all have. 80% of all this marijuana goes out of this state, and it's not supposed to. Marijuana that's grown in this state is supposed to stay here as a way of financing various things. Walmart, Home Depot, all of them make money from illegal grows. And you need to understand that. It's the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. You may not like that, but I've worked with various things, the United States Coast Guard and so forth, fighting drugs. And your rich people are getting rich, like Home Depot and so forth, by providing the things that make it necessary for the grows.
All right, thank you. And we'll go to Mark Jones.
All right, so as far as repealing it the way it's currently written, I would have to say yes. How many of you have read it, by raise of hands? To me, it's it can be interpreted in a way that it could hurt other people, not for what it was intended for. That's just my belief of it. I'm going to read a section here. 19.19.150, fines upon conviction in civil litigation. Basically, it breaks it down. It says, any individual, corporation, or entity that violates any of the provisions of this regulation. And it talks about a fine. I'm going to try to cut this short so I'm at 90 seconds. The fine is $1,000, so I'm going to jump down to number 3. Maintaining a recreational vehicle, automobiles, tents, or tarps as a dwelling and allowing residents or individuals to reside in them. So for me, I would have got fined $1,000 for allowing my nephew and his family who moved here to live in my RV for a couple months while they found a house. So the way this is written, I could have got fined for allowing my nephew to live there. As far as allowing individuals to live in tents and tarps, if you cross the bridge, the city, since that's city property and they're allowing people to live in those tents, owes about $18,000. As of driving by today, I counted about 18 tents. So the way this is written, it depends on what you, I'm out of time. Anyway, I don't like it.
All right, thank you. Jordan DeHarty.
So, I haven't read this. This is the first that I've heard any amount of this. I'm very wet behind the ears, as some might say, when it comes to politics, and I'm completely fine with that. If the code is written in such a way where it comes across that way and people are going to be fined for potentially letting someone stay with them, which I don't think is the intent, I'm not for it. I would repeal it and have it rewritten, but I don't fully know. It sounds like it. I don't fully know. As far as marijuana in this county, I think we all know there's a ridiculous amount of illegal marijuana everywhere, and it seems like we're doing very little to stop it, and I would love to see that change. It's interesting that we went from a county to where it was illegal, and I think everyone knew someone to an extent who knew someone who had a grow, who had a this, who had a that. And now that it's legal, it feels like we have tremendously more illegal grows, and that's a problem. It's a huge problem. When a huge amount of it's being sent out of the state, that's a huge problem. We need to fix these problems. How? I don't know yet, but I would love to figure it out. I'd love to figure out with you and make it work better for every single person so that we're not being put in a position where these illegal grows are ruining people's waterways, where they are taking money out of other people's pockets, and where we're shipping this marijuana all around the United States and the world from our county. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now Brian DeLaGrange.
Thank you. So I've heard from a lot of people that are having issues that live near illegal grows, and they're having issues with their wells, they're having issues with the creeks that run through their property, they're having noise issues, they're having just security issues. So I think we all know that this is a real problem, and I think we all know that something needs to be done. And the ordinance that was put forward is a step in the right direction. It's certainly not perfect. That passage that Mark cited, I take a little bit of issue with that as well. However, I don't think that that's what they're really going after here. They're going after the big offenders, they're going after the most egregious situations, issues of imminent health and safety risk. So I personally support the ordinance. The ordinance has a sunset clause built in. It's less than 3 years from now it will sunset unless affirmative action is taken by the commissioners to renew it. So with that safeguard in place, I think we need to do something, and I think this is already on the books, and I think that we should let it play out and see how it works, and then if it doesn't work, we can try something else.
Thank you. And now Gary Richardson.
This is one of those rural-urban divides that we have here in Josephine County between the city of Grants Pass. The ordinance as it's written doesn't really apply to pretty much any property within the city of Grants Pass. All those stuff's got permits, it's been that way. And that kind of thing, it does have much more of an impact for the rural parts of the county. I don't support many of the sections, as Mark was alluding to. It can be used in ways other than just targeting illegal grows. At this point, the voters are going to decide, and if they choose to keep it, as Brian said, it will sunset. And to target those illegal grows, it could have been much better written, much more targeted to specifically take on those large illegal activities without encumbering the rights of the rural people to essentially do what they want with their property out there.
All right, thank you. And John West.
Well, this topic is a hot topic. I believe this was, in my opinion, one of the poorest written ordinances I have ever seen. I believe that it violates your personal property rights. I believe it violates your constitutional rights. And if this ordinance was to be written to control and stop the marijuana and the marijuana grows, it was poorly done. You know, we talk about this ordinance to control the marijuana and stop the water use. If we want to get technical, Brian DeLaGrange has got as much problems with the water use. As a city council, they sell millions of gallons of water a day to the marijuana growers off of Williams Highway right from a water spigot. And that water's coming from the Rogue River. Why has this city council not stopped the sale of all that water to water trucks to these marijuana growers? So the county has to put together some sort of ordinance, which is 2/3 of it is aimed at the property owner for whatever it might be, a car, a fence post, a chicken house, whatever it is, that they can come and go after each one of them anytime they want. Administrative search warrant. So why aren't we targeting only what it was designed for, was the marijuana growers, if that's what you want to do?
Thank you. And now Mark Seligman.
Ronald Reagan said the 7 most dangerous words you ever want to hear is, "Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you." Now, this ordinance must be repealed. I was at a candidates get-together with Brian and John and others this weekend. A woman came up to us, we're standing in a circle, and she said, "Are you commissioners? Who's for these county officials coming on your land?" I stepped back and I said, "Brian is." And he's just told you, he is for this ordinance. This is a dangerous precedent. This is a violation of your land use rights. Yes, I'm against all illegal marijuana grows. However, once they come on your land, do you really think they're not going to see permits? What, you got an RV? Everything Mark Jones said, I agree with. Now I'm the marijuana guy, supposedly, so I've tried to cool it tonight, but now the questions come up. This entire marijuana thing is a false narrative. 50 to 70% of the grows are going away because there's lack of a profit. Drive around the county, not the city, drive around the county and you will see the people that grew last year aren't growing this year. Vote to repeal this ordinance. It's a money grab by the county. It takes away your property rights and fines you severely. It's a false narrative, folks, and we cannot believe. City officials have different priorities as city councilors than county commissioners.
Thank you. And we'll end it with Neigel von Hruska.
All right, our property rights are our foremost and most important thing. That's how we build wealth. It's been like that since America started. So why change it now? It's worked, and it's worked well. So I vote repeal it. And the cannabis people aren't going to follow the rules. The cartel doesn't follow the rules. They don't care about a $1,000 a day fine. They're a multi-pronged organization. They're making millions and millions and millions of dollars a minute. There's pallets of money that they can just pull right off of. So if you think a silly little laughable offense like that's going to stop the cartel, nope, not going to work. What's going to stop the cartel is a united front of the citizens, the cops, and everybody together. Because united, we can win. Divided, we fall.
Thank you. It is time for our next question. Still 90 seconds, still got the buzzer, all that good stuff. What is your opinion on the county's handling of Sportsman Park and the gun range, and what should the outcome be? First, we will hear from Brian DeLaGrange.
So the whole Sportsman Park issue, in my opinion, has been a debacle. The structure that it's currently under with county ownership has worked great since its inception, half a century ago. Everything has worked well at the Sportsman's Park. We have the partnership with the association that runs it. The county owns it. There hasn't been an issue. So I don't see why there's an issue now. I know that the commissioners are saying that there's a liability issue. To some small degree, that's true, but that liability issue has always been there, and it's easily resolvable with just having a little bit more liability coverage. So I don't think that the county should be getting rid of the property. I think the county should retain ownership. I think there's even opportunity for the county to start making more revenue out there. They have a ton of land, and I know a lot of it is downrange, but there's opportunity to have some more RV spots there, to develop it to have more groups come in, more events, so it could be a revenue stream for the county.
Up next, Gary Richardson. What is your opinion on the county's handling of Sportsman Park and the gun range, and what should the outcome be?
I'm actually not quite sure why there's such a turbulence related to that issue. The county essentially deeded the rights to all use of that property away to that organization. So yes, they technically own the underlying land, but they get no use. They can't do anything with that property. They deeded that away back in the 70s. So whether the county retains the actual title or whether it passes to another entity with an agreement that if they don't use it the way it's been used in the past, that it reverts to the county, I think there's plenty of protection. If there was one thing about the whole thing, it was just there wasn't enough conversation so that people understood what was happening. It's really just some technical moves that don't really amount to anything.
Thank you. John West.
So I hear about this all the time when I'm knocking on doors. And I think the commissioners boxed themselves in a corner. They didn't come right out of the gate, right up front, and come clean with all the issues that's going on with the Sportsman Park. 1972, I believe it was, the previous commissioners then signed the rights of that over to the Sportsman Park. The county really is stuck. I don't know what you're giving away, because the only thing you're giving away is, quote, this liability issue that they talk about. The Sportsman Park has the rights to that land forever, according to that agreement. So whether we like it or not, it's not what any of us would do as commissioner. That agreement's already in place. And I don't think that the Sportsman Group is going to change that. I just think the whole situation could be handled differently, and I think we need to look at all the options before we give it away.
Thank you. Mark Seligman.
I am completely opposed to any giveaway of this park. You know, the county commissioners, they give themselves a 5% raise. They consistently raise taxes when they can, or put it on the ballot, or they raise fees. I know that there was a levy a number of years ago which raised money for the parks. Now, the parks director is being held out of this whole situation when she's warned the county of the possibility of a future loss of revenue regarding the park. You know, the citizens of Grants Pass, they are overtaxed. How do you think they're going to feel when the county, here, we're going to tax, you know, there are county residents and they're getting overtaxed, but the county commissioners can give this away? I disagree with that. Lake Selmac, where I live, we are paying, we can no longer use there's a day use fee in certain areas of the park where there never was. So what you have here is, let's give this away, but raise the fees and taxes of the citizens. I'm completely opposed to this. The county should not be able to give it away.
Neigel von Hruska.
All right, refresh the question again.
Absolutely.
Please.
What is your opinion on the county's handling of Sportsman Park and the gun range, and what should
Okay.
the outcome be?
Well, I mean, I listened to the people at one of those meetings, and the people sounded like they want status quo. And I totally understand where Herman and Wally and them are coming from, because they're trying to protect the gun club from an invasion from up north, as we would say. So, you know, our Second Amendment is always, always under attack. And so I know exactly what they're looking to do, but giving something away, I'm not sure about that either. But the liability, we don't need it also. So at this point, status quo until those guys can get more people on board to see what they're actually up to let them understand it a little bit better, because I don't hear them quite understand. They just hear something for free when they're trying to protect people's gun rights and not lose them in the future. That's all they're doing. So status quo for now until the people actually are more aboard on it.
All right, and James Ward.
Well, there's more lead in Rogue River by fishermen than there is at this range. It's bullshit. You know what? All you have to do is like cat litter, scoop up the lead, keep it contained, you're okay. There's more lead spread all over the place. More than there is in that range. So you think about that. There's more lead in the Rogue River by fishermen than there is at that range. So this is a bunch of crap.
Thank you. Mark Jones.
So I believe the county should keep that property. I understand their reasoning for wanting to transfer it over to the Sportsman Association. There's the upcoming cost of insurance that will be increased because the insurance policy holder or the insurance company didn't know that they had a gun range in Josephine County. So the other thing is the lead pollution. It's my understanding that once a piece of property is polluted, no matter who you sell that property to, you're still responsible for the pollution on it. So by transferring it away, they're not getting out from underneath the issue about the lead pollution. But by keeping the land, it also adds to, I think it's valued at 1-point-something million, but it adds to the assets of the county. So if the county goes after bonds and things, that's something that could be used as showing that the county has X amount of assets to be able to secure those bonds. So I think the county should keep it. We should utilize it in a different way to create a better revenue stream, maybe promote more, promote more uses of the park. Whether it be adding a RV park so that when they come in to do competitions, we can reap the revenue from the RV park while they're there doing competitions. So keep the park.
Thank you. And lastly, Jordan DeHarty.
Thank you again. I don't see a point in getting rid of something that the county currently owns and giving it away. It makes sense, and it sounds like a lot of people agree with this to some extent, to do what we can to make as much money as we can with the property and to try to find other ways to make revenue with it. I personally can't see a good reason for getting rid of it, and that's it.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. And Mark Jones, you're going to start us off on this one. Do you think the county should explore banning the use or sale of fireworks?
Of course, go after the guy with the fire service experience. Make me the bad guy. See, first of all, I love fireworks. I think they're awesome. However, illegal fireworks are already banned. The ones, the mortars and all the things like that, you're not supposed to be able to use them here anyways. However, every year you see them in the air, everywhere you look around the county. The ones that are currently sold, the sparklers, the ones that don't launch up into the air, as long as those are used in proper supervision and in proper areas, free of fire danger hazards, I don't see the need to ban them, but there should be something in place that makes sure people aren't using them in really tall grass and close to the woods. So I'd have to say no on banning the current ones that are technically legal, but definitely maintain the ones that are launching into the air, because those ones do get out of hand and can land and start forest fires.
All right, thank you. And James Ward, you're next.
I think it's a lot of fun to watch all the illegal stuff. You know why? It's great, because I grew up trying to blow myself up. And I see all this stuff going on beyond legal. You know what? I love firecrackers. I love all this stuff. You know what? Try to stop these people from illegal doing it. Ha ha, that's funny.
All right, thank you. And now Neigel von Hruska.
All right, well, I feel for the people of Grants Pass that have animals, little cats, dogs, that get scared senseless with that. And I understand the fact that people are irresponsible with their fireworks. I mean, they just launch them all night. They're derelicts, most of them. So, I mean, I hate to say it, but I would actually only do the fireworks for 2 hours, you know, let the kids have some fun, and that's it, you know. I mean, I think the adults need to slow up on having fun and maybe slow up on drinking and do a little more working. So just 2 hours of fireworks, and let's get back to work. That's about it. Thank you.
All right, Mark Seligman.
Well, fireworks are as American as apple pie. However, in Josephine, remember I said the role of government is to protect us against fires, floods, pandemics, etc. We live in a real dangerous area for fire. I think we should follow what the ODF says. As far as fireworks being fun and illegal being fun, it's interesting how someone can say that, but then be opposed to illegal marijuana grows. A forest fire will do far more damage than any illegal marijuana grow will ever do. It could burn the whole county up. So, you know, is that fun? I don't think so. But I think we should listen to the Oregon Department of Forestry and the experts who could tell us what should go and should not go. But we need to have a responsible, that's my job. I clear fire defensible space. So I've had a fire destroy my house. So it's really important that we do what is right to protect the citizens.
All right, thank you. And John West.
So fireworks. As an owner of a wildland firefighting company for over 30 years, there hasn't been that many that I know of fireworks caused wildland fire. We live in a society of regulation. Let's regulate you for everything. When have we decided to let the people decide and to use some common sense? Can we not raise common sense people that says, let's not go out and set fireworks out in the middle of the brush patch or a grassy field? We hold people responsible for it. From regulation to fireworks to everything else, we're regulated to death. Pretty soon, we're not going to get to do anything we enjoy or like. So I think we continue education, and if it becomes a bigger problem than it is, then we look and ask the voters what they think. But as far as me, I'm not one that wants to tell you you can no longer use fireworks. That's not for me.
All right, thank you. And Gary Richardson.
Well, this was a question I wasn't prepared for, and kind of my deal is to research stuff, so winging it's not my style. But so you get pluses and minuses. On the one hand, you look at, well, what are the rights of the people? Should those be curtailed? What's the risk? On the other hand, fire districts are one of the first governmental entities that we created as a society here in America. So, and the reason for that is because sometimes your neighbor would burn down the whole city, and we got tired of that. So we're trying to find that balance as we all live together. So on this particular one, I kind of think people should be free to do that kind of stuff. I'm not sure how to decrease the risk to all of us as a society for the few that do dumb things with their fireworks. So that's as good as I can get on short notice.
Thank you. Brian DeLaGrange.
One of the biggest jobs, if not the biggest job of government, is to try to keep the public safe. We do that in the county through the Sheriff's Department and hopefully here in the near future with an independent fire district. Southern Oregon is one of the highest risk areas for catastrophic wildfire. So if you take out the fun of fireworks, which I enjoy, and you take out the patriotism attached to the fireworks, which I agree with, doing things like that in the height of fire season doesn't make sense. Just on a rational level, it does not make sense to be setting things on fire all over the county when it's the driest time of the year. So I don't know that I would go so far as to say that I would support a fireworks ban, although we pretty much have a ban in the city except for on the 4th of July for a few-hour window. So that could be one idea to look at. Another idea to look at could be trying to change the tradition a little bit and have our fireworks be at the end of the year. Have a New Year's Eve fireworks celebration instead of a 4th of July fireworks celebration. Just because it's always been on the 4th of July doesn't mean it always has to be on the 4th of July forever. 4th of July is still going to be a very special day, but just the realities of the situation in the place that we live makes it very risky for us to be setting fires all over the county in the driest part of the year. So I would be in favor of looking at one of those two ideas.
Thank you. And we'll end with Jordan DeHarty.
I have heard of very few large fires started by fireworks, and I'm curious how many actually do, and I'm curious how much this actually affects us, because I don't see a point in banning something that is extremely American and something I think most people enjoy and is, as Mark said, as American as apple pie. I just don't see it currently. If something changes, we start having a tremendous number of fires started by fireworks, that's a different story. I mean, doing it in the middle of summer where everything is dry could be an issue, but I don't currently see an issue that has happened from fireworks directly. A lot of the fires that are being started aren't being started by fireworks. The illegal fireworks that are being shot up in the air, maybe we need to manage those better, watch out for those people better, because those are at higher risk of starting fires. But as far as sparklers and little tiny ground fireworks, most people are doing them in the street. I don't see an issue with it myself. I would not agree with banning fireworks in Josephine County currently.
All right, moving right along. Neigel, this will be for you first. What role do you think the county should play in expanding infrastructure, especially for broadband?
Okay, well, the broadband, I was looking at an article in the Illinois Valley newspaper from 2017, just a little bit ago, and they were claiming that, you know, how broadband can increase the amount of the workers earning more money. And they did a lot of that, I guess, in 2017, and I'm curious to see if that actually has lifted some people up out of, you know, the ditch, and they've gotten better work. But Monique and Taz, they have CaveNet in Cave Junction, so they're on top of that, and they've been working with Darren Fowler. So basically what I would do is just step right in what Darren Fowler was doing with Monique and Taz with the broadband, go from there, because Monique and Taz, who own CaveNet, they're the longest standing mom and pop's internet store in the whole state of Oregon. So they know quite a bit. So I'd use what they knew, and Darren would walk me into it, and we'd build a better infrastructure. More freedom equals more money. And I'm not a computer guy, but I can understand the fact that the people that do need their computers, they can sell anything online and make a decent living.
All right, thank you. James Ward, what role do you think the county should play in expanding infrastructure, especially broadband?
Well, we have a new fiber optic here as an option. And I switched, and it's faster, better, cleaner. It's modern. And I suggest go to them because everything else sucks.
Thank you. Mark Jones.
So the broadband issue obviously has been around for a little while. I have really poor internet at my house. My neighbor runs his business out of his house at a whole 12 megabytes per second, which is pretty bad. We tried looking into getting fiber optics from Pinecrest to our neighborhood, and they wanted 10 grand to do that. So as far as what the county's role in getting broadband out to the people is, maybe doing something to have those companies that can provide that service lower those fees, or at least go into these neighborhoods and find out how many people are going to use it, and if there's a certain number of people that will be using it and will be signing up, to waive the fee that it would cost to run that fiber optic down the road to those neighborhoods. So working with those companies and getting them to put the infrastructure in place to get broadband out to the people. The other option is obviously the Starlink, but it's pretty expensive for people, but it does give them high-speed internet. So that's an option.
Thank you. Jordan DeHarty.
So we're living in a world where most people need the internet. We don't need it, but we need it to be a part of the society that we live in. We need it for a lot of work that we do. And so if there's a way for us as commissioners to realistically help people get better internet that actually allows them to work from home, to start businesses from their home, to make more money, that's more money in the county, that's more people who are going to pay into taxes, that are going to support the county. They're going to support all of the things that we need. So if that is the case, then I completely agree with it. But it just depends on what all goes into expanding the infrastructure. If it's a cost to us and we don't get a benefit out of it, it doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian DeLaGrange.
So the county's role in expanding infrastructure specifically for broadband revolves around, number one, staying on top of funding opportunities that are coming down from the state and federal level. Right now, there's a lot of money being allocated to rural areas to build out broadband. So the money is coming to address this issue. We're not going to have to pay for it locally. But as a county, we need to be on top of it, and we need to make sure we're not missing the opportunity to get the resources to address the problem. So the county's role is to essentially facilitate getting the money and working with providers that are already here in our county that are already providing internet, like CaveNet and Hunter and all of the other outfits, because those networks that they already have are valuable. And so we just want to expand the networks that already exist. We don't need to rebuild the whole network in the county. It's mostly done. We just need to finish out the areas that don't have it yet. So working with the existing providers would be the way to do that.
Thank you. Gary Richardson, what role do you think the county should play in expanding infrastructure, especially broadband?
Well, the infrastructure is one of the roles of government. Government shouldn't be in the business of picking winners and losers and supporting businesses. But in terms of infrastructure, absolutely that is a function of the county government. There are, as Brian mentioned, numerous federal and state opportunities to address broadband speeds here in Josephine County, and the county government absolutely needs to be on top of that, making sure they've applied for the grants at the proper time, making sure that they have projects that are ready so that when those opportunities come, we can take advantage of them here. It's a really good opportunity. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us here in Josephine County with the amount of money that's out there.
And John West.
So I believe that the role of government is, in this situation, is to negotiate and get the best bang for your buck. As a business person, I built a subdivision in Merlin, and I got charter communications there to 38 homes with not one penny to any of those homeowners. So that's what I take pride in, is going and negotiating and getting you something without costing you an arm and a leg, something that might help you. And broadband and high-speed internet, all of this stuff is something that, as a county commissioner, it's my job to go out on your behalf and get these items for you that you want without it costing you. That's the role of being the CEO of the county, and that's what the three commissioners are. And so it's very important. It's not as important to everyone, but the people that it is, as a whole, we need to get it to them without a big cost to them.
Thank you. And lastly, Mark Seligman.
Well, I was talking about prosperity. What a great example. This is something that the county commissioners really need to apply for, those federal grants, get them as soon as possible, build this out in the rural communities. It's a win-win situation. There are federal grants available. Think about our youth again. They graduate high school. The best thing they can do is leave because they can't get a good paying job. They're on broadband. They can work in Chicago, Detroit, LA, Memphis. Within 5 years, they'll have a 5-figure income. They're going to use that money to spend money in this county. Let's have something like this, which the county commissioners can do and I would do. Let's have this instead of increasing our taxes. You have more kids with jobs, more adults with really good jobs. You're going to have less crime. It's a win-win situation. The county commissioners should negotiate the best deal possible. I'm really enthused about this, and this would be one of my top priorities if you elect me.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. And John West, you'll be kicking this one off. What is your opinion on the Greater Idaho measure being on the ballot? And do you support exploring the idea?
Well, a lot of voters are fed up with Salem. They've had it. They're sick and tired of up north dictating. And so as I go across here and talk to voters, they don't want to leave Oregon. They want to stay in Oregon, but they're fed up with Salem and Portland, always voting and dictating everything that happens. I was born here. I don't want to leave. But I don't know what to do up there until we can get the voters to come out and vote and change Salem. The Greater Idaho can be an answer. I know they have their own issues, different taxation, different things. But I don't know. I'm torn on it. But I'm sick and tired of Salem. And if it means the Greater Idaho, and we can't change Salem and can't change what they do up there, then I lean that way.
Thank you. And now Gary Richardson.
Well, things like Greater Idaho, that's like just in the water around here. It used to be state of Jefferson, right? So I can remember talking to my grandfather about that one. So what it really represents is dissatisfaction with what's coming down to us from Salem. So as a political tool to voice that dissatisfaction to Salem, I understand that. I can support giving Salem the message. Actually becoming part of Idaho, I don't actually think that would occur. There's a whole lot of hurdles before we get there. I'm not sure I really want to go there. So I think it's just a political message, and I support the political message.
Thank you. And now Brian DeLaGrange.
So the Greater Idaho thing is a very weak political message. Typically in this county, to get something on the ballot, you need to have, I believe, at least 2,500 signatures. This Greater Idaho group got less than 1,000. I believe it was in the 700s. So the support was not really there, but the commissioners decided to put it on the ballot anyway because they support it. So when it's convenient for them, they circumvent the process. That said, I think it is a ridiculous idea. I was born here. I'm proud to be an Oregonian. I don't want us to become part of Idaho. I think if we have issues with how things are run at the state level, then we should do what we can to address those, not trying to become part of another state.
Thank you. Now Jordan DeHarty.
I think the Greater Idaho thing, and I think everyone realizes, stems from wanting to separate, from being controlled for the most part through policies out of 3 cities. I think that's it. I think it's 3 cities that are vastly different than the majority of the state. I don't think Greater Idaho is the answer. I understand why people look at it and go, man, I would prefer that. Man, I would love that. Man, I think that's what I want to do. But I just don't see it being the answer. And I think that, like State of Jefferson, like things like that, it has been an idea before. I just don't see it happening. I'd love to have separation from cities that are vastly different than the rest of the state, but I just can't see it happening.
Thank you. Now Mark Jones.
So I get the concept behind it, wanting to separate from Salem's control and Salem's policies that don't work for the rural communities. So I understand why they want to do that. Me personally, I'm an Oregonian. I grew up here. When I left, I considered myself an Oregonian, and coming back, I still want to remain an Oregonian. I don't even know what I would be. Would it be a Greater Idahoan, or I mean, but seriously, the problem is Salem is controlling the rural communities in a way that is not beneficial to the rural communities. So we need to come together as rural communities and rural counties and stand up to Salem and make the changes in Salem. Until we do that, it's never going to be beneficial for us. So that's where I'm at with it.
Thank you. James Ward.
Well, Oregon Territory went up to Canada, went part in Montana, all of Oregon and Washington. So I think it's kind of funny, but interesting. And I agree with him, it is political. But it ain't gonna pass, unfortunately. But we're controlled by several counties. The red is bigger than the blue. So you need to understand that. When you vote, make sure you make the right decision.
Thank you. And now Neigel von Hruska.
Okay, first and foremost, I was born in Oregon. I've got tattoos of the state of Oregon. There ain't no way it's gonna be of Idaho. My great-grandma had a store in G Street. She'd call me a coward if we ran from a fight, and so would my dad. So when you start saying, oh, let's go to Idaho, you're admitting defeat to the people up north, and their conquer and divide scheme is working. They're having people like me and John that agree with each other, but we don't agree on the Idaho thing. No, we shouldn't be worried about that. We should worry about the fight that's ahead of us. So the Idaho thing is a conquer and divide technique put out there just to get us doing what we're doing right now. So I believe you fight. You don't, I'd rather die on my sword than die on my knees, and that's where I am. I refuse to, I just can't do it. No way, no.
All right, thank you. And Mark Seligman.
Well, Idaho is good for its potatoes. okay? You like Idaho? Fine, 7% sales tax. How does that make you feel? Marijuana is a felony, okay? ID cards in excess. Women don't have the right to choose. White supremacists love Coeur d'Alene in northern Idaho. I don't want anything to do with Idaho. I don't even want to go there. Now let's talk about Salem. That's true. There is a rural city divide. We need to elect commissioners that don't come up with ridiculous things like these commissioners boosting Greater Idaho. Do you think the Salem people look at us as reasonable, intelligent people, somebody we can respect and work with? Absolutely not. They look at our death rates of COVID. They look at the vaccine rates, see how low it is compared to the rest of the state. We don't look good. That's why we don't get what we should get from the state, because we're not reasonable with them. So yeah, Greater Idaho, I will certainly vote no. And whatever problems we have with Salem, that's a lot less than problems we'd have if we were Greater Idaho.
All right, and we've got one more question. This one was submitted by an audience member before we do closing statements this evening. The question is, and it'll go to Brian DeLaGrange first, what are 2 goals you would work for that would improve the economics of the county?
That's a good question. So one goal that stands out that we've already touched on is the broadband issue. I think the broadband issue would be far-reaching in the county, and I think that's one tool that we would be able to develop as commissioners to just increase the prosperity, as Mark would say, of the county as a whole. Another thing that the county can do is work more with our partners at the city of Grants Pass and the city of Cave Junction. I know the city of Cave Junction, they feel ignored by the commissioners. So I think working to build a relationship with the city of Cave Junction would be good. They don't have any hotels out there. There's a lot of opportunity out in that area. So I think taking a little bit more focus at the commissioner level towards the Illinois Valley area would be important. And then also working with the city and the surrounding areas to just partner on efforts to boost economic efforts all around.
Thank you. Gary Richardson, what are 2 goals you would work for that would improve the economics of the county?
Well, certainly the broadband infrastructure, which is going to bring significant federal and state dollars into the county to build out that infrastructure. And just in general, infrastructure projects by the county, which much of state and federal funding anymore does not come to us just as a tax. It comes to us in the form of grants and stuff like that. The county needs to be prepared to access its share of that kind of tax revenues, even though they come in the form of grants, to build the infrastructure so that the businesses here can prosper. Illinois Valley was actually getting very close to having a pretty good economic boom until the pandemic hit, which sort of put a damper on how things were going out there, but they should be recovering soon. And for the second part would be to work on, again, the funding for the county government, to do a layered approach to get rid of the ups and downs so that it can just be much smoother, keep the sheriff's office funded so we have long-term employees, that kind of thing, which makes businesses want to grow here.
Thank you. And John West.
So we use the word economics. Why does our county suffer? What are we doing for the businesses? What are we doing to create businesses? What are we doing to bring businesses to Josephine County? I know one thing, we can do a lot better job than we've done in the past. And when I say Josephine County, I'm talking about the county as a whole, from Williams to Cave Junction to Wolf Creek to Sunny Valley. It's not just Grants Pass. This county is bigger than just Grants Pass or Merlin. We have industrial parks that aren't full. We could go out there as county commissioners, as leaders in this county, and bring businesses and help the businesses we have to do better. Part of our economic problem is housing. There's no place for people to live. I mean, it's not a one shoe fits all. We have many different areas, and we need a leader that's going to look at all those areas and bring us together as a county and fix it all. And we're not doing that. And that's what we need to do.
Thank you. Mark Seligman, what are 2 goals you would work for that would improve the economics of the county?
As a county commissioner, my major role would be to enhance businesses and individual, lower fees, things like that, incentivize them. I talked about broadband before. I'm very enthusiastic about broadband in every rural home for obvious reasons. Higher pay for youth, higher pay for everyone. And now the controversial one. Marijuana is going to be legal within 1 year. I used to live in the wine country in the Bay Area. Sonoma County, Napa County, acres of vineyards, very successful. I am for legal grows. I am for county commissioners boosting our product when it's legal so it can be exported, just like any other product. This will boost our overall income. It will give, with broadband, it will give us some degree of prosperity. You know, we have the lowest tax rate here for a reason, because we have one of the lowest income rates. So maybe we could raise ourselves up some way, somehow, when this marijuana thing sorts out. But I'm kind of doubtful, considering what's been going on, if investors would rather go to a place like Oklahoma anyway. But we simply have to do something to raise our prosperity, and broadband might be the one.
Thank you. Neigel von Hruska.
All right, well, broadband, of course, I guess I'm on the same boat as all these guys here. And, well, Mark, he's talking about the marijuana community here once again, and that's a tough community to make money on. I mean, the state, if you want to really make money on the marijuana community, we'd have to take over the medical marijuana program right from the state's hands, have the Josephine County medical marijuana program, take in all those funds that the state has taken in from that program, that would be ours. Cut the state out of that completely. To me, that's the only way you can make some money off the marijuana. And then Mark's talking about exporting. Well, in order to export, that could be a good idea. So what you would do is you get our growers out here that can grow cheaper weed, and then they ship it to other towns so they can sell in their medical stores and OLC stores. So they don't have to go through the growing pains that we have went through. We went through all of these cartels. Every green rush, there's been 3 or 4 different green rushes. Different people move here, have seen everything. So there could be an export thing to do it, but it's got to be somebody that truly knows the cannabis all the way through and thin, from fertilizers to sales to everything. It'd take a genius to do it. And but that would be a revenue. You could do it. That's it.
Thank you. James Ward.
Marijuana is a federal crime, period. Our youth that's growing up in this community is the future of this community. We need business. We need other things that keep our youth here. They don't stay here. There's nothing here for them to stay for. So we need to build an infrastructure that keeps our youth, keeps the people here that is our future. Marijuana itself is on the way out. Because I'm here with the United States Coast Guard and the Department of Homeland Security. We want it gone.
Thank you. Mark Jones, what are 2 goals you would work for that would improve the economics of the county?
So, as commissioner, I would put in support for the small businesses and the local entrepreneurs. Help those businesses grow, and eventually maybe one of them could become the next big thing. If you go back in history a little bit, two brothers started a little coffee shop with a cart, and they became a very big thing. They had support from the community, they had support from their friends and family, and that's what we need to do to all the businesses in town, in the county, and out in Cave Junction. Start supporting those local businesses, help them to grow, make them bigger. We have a lot of innovative people in the county, and Broadband would obviously help them to be able to get their businesses started. You got to start in the home. Maybe it's some guy designing something in his garage, but his 5 megabytes per second won't allow him to send a large file to a company that may buy his product, that may make him into a big corporation or business one day. So broadband obviously is one thing. The other thing we need to do is find some workers. We have a worker shortage. If you look around, everybody's hiring. We don't have anybody to work. So creating a workforce, so that too will also, once we have a workforce here, whether we train them at RCC or we put in some vocational schools or whatever, get the people trained, and then that'll bring the big businesses here too, because we have a workforce.
Thank you, and Jordan DeHarty.
So we need to work towards making this county, and every part of it, not just Grants Pass, because I think a lot of times people in this county view Grants Pass as the heart of the county, and to a degree maybe it is. But we need to work to make this county as inviting as possible for the right kind of people. And we need to incentivize and work with businesses so that they can flourish and work as well as they possibly can. Everything that we do needs to be towards building up small businesses, building up infrastructure, building up all of these little pieces that maybe get neglected. I think that's really all that we need to do, and I think we constantly have to be striving for it all the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are now going to move into closing comments. So just a reminder, you have 2 minutes, and this will be the end of the forum. And we're going to start with Mark Jones with your closing comments.
Yay, I'm first. Well, to be commissioner, the reason I'm running is like I said before, over half my life was spent helping others in their time of need. And I feel that I can do that for this county. I can be there to listen to them, to make sure that their voices are heard, to make sure that the county is moving in the direction that the citizens want to move. I think currently there's decisions that are made that the citizens don't really want made. So by being that voice for the citizens and making all my decisions based on their wants and desires, that is my goal. Public safety, I believe creating a secure and safe environment for all the citizens is very important. And I have 28 years in public safety that will help me be able to guide our sheriff's department, our fire departments, fire districts, and make sure that they're creating a safe environment for everybody. And that's about where I'm at. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now James Ward.
Well, we're growing at a pace that's unbelievable here in this county. My house went from $600,000 to over $1 million. And I have to pay a lot of taxes, but I'm a retired, 100% disabled veteran. So I only pay half. But, so what do? The conscience is you out there and sitting here listening to me and everybody else. You're going to either get a politician or you're going to get a patriot. Take your pick.
Thank you. And now Neigel von Hruska.
All right, well, growing up in Cave Junction, I've seen crime firsthand, daily. basically for my whole life. So, sometimes, it takes somebody that knows crime to stop crime. And that would be one of my hugest advantages. And law enforcement and working to get the people off the streets, to make it safer for our children to walk the streets and people to have businesses. It's as simple as that. And then keeping government regulation down. You don't want to even know what the government's up to. They should be working behind the scenes. They shouldn't be up in our business. We should be able to make our own decisions on our lands, and we should be able to defend ourselves with whatever force we want to defend ourselves with, first of all. So maybe people need to go shooting a little more, start practicing up and getting ready for what's to come in the future, because it's going to be rough. I can't sugarcoat it. It's going to be rough. So remember that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Mark Seligman.
One of the major roles of a county commissioner should be to show compassion for the seniors, for the youth, for those that are most vulnerable, for those that are hurting. A county commissioner makes $80,000 a year. The average income in Josephine County is about 40 plus. There is no comparison between the two. We need to find ways to enhance people's values through better jobs, not through punitive measures. Those in government need to get down and get dirty. Maybe they should go and live a week with the homeless and see what it feels like. 40 years I've run a landscape maintenance business. I've struggled here when I first came here. It took me a long time. I had to thank God I had insurance on my house when my house burned down, because it took a disaster. They gave you money for loss of possessions. It took a disaster to make me, better. What a shame. What about the person who doesn't have a disaster and is struggling? So the role of a county commissioner should be to show some compassion and not to tax people and not to put more regulations on them, unless, of course, there's an environmental reason for it. But I just don't see that with the current board. And hopefully one of the fine people up here tonight who, if they're fortunate enough to win instead of me, will share that kind of a goal. Compassion from elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. And now John West.
So folks, you're going to have a decision to make starting Friday when you get your ballot. I guess I need to push that button first, don't I? So the decision you need to make is, what do you want in a county commissioner? Do you want somebody that's a politician? Do you want somebody that's maybe been on the school board, on city council? In my opinion, the county commissioner is a CEO of this county. But first of all, the CEO needs to listen to you and to serve you and to do the will of the people. And that's what I'm about. I'm a proven businessman. I will bring business to this county. I will listen to you. And most of all, I think that we need to think about, how do we move forward? Where do we go? What do you want? And I'm here to listen to you every day and to try to do the will of the people the best I can. I'm a small business owner. I've employed hundreds of people at a time, had million-dollar payrolls. I've got a proven track record. I can't speak for all these guys. I can tell you what, I can manage this county. I can do and bring business to this county, and I can make this county better with the other commissioners, better than it's ever been, and make everyone proud of this county. So it's not a time to give up. It's a time for us to move forward and to do the right thing, and remember, your vote counts. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Gary Richardson.
Commissioners are responsible for overseeing the county's management and administration, representing the county's interest at the state and federal levels, participating in long-range planning, and managing the county budget and finances. I have a proven track record of building relationships and working with teams. I've interacted with people from all over the world, working with many different departments and locations to develop and successfully launch products with million-dollar budgets. These products have had hazardous location certifications, meaning that I had to work with quasi-governmental bodies to achieve that certification. To successfully get these products to market required building relationships with groups where I did not have direct authority. Today's complex world requires coordination with many stakeholders. So my experience is coordinating work so that when it's finished, there are no problems, from the functioning of the product to the installation, from the efficiency of the production line to the profit for the company. This is not about me looking for a job. I have a job that pays significantly more than a county commissioner's job. Of the candidates here, there's no one more qualified to serve as your county commissioner. I've been living in preparation both personally and professionally for a long time. And the one thing I'd be trying to do for this county is county government should be like electricity, there when you need it and unnoticed when you don't.
Thank you. And now Brian DeLaGrange.
Thank you. Just real briefly before I get into my closing statement, I wanted to say one other thing about economic development, and that's that we have a huge opportunity for tourism in this county that is not being utilized. So that would be another thing that I think there's a huge opportunity there with our natural assets here in the county. So having said that, I think the goal is to focus on the big issues at the county level, and the big issues are the sheriff's funding, the unprotected areas for fire, so independent fire district, dealing with illegal cannabis and the effects of that on our community, and housing and homelessness. Those are the big issues, and those are the issues that we need to focus on. There's a lot of other issues that need to be taken care of as well, but we cannot divert our focus from those 4 issues, because those, once we resolve those, we're going to be in a lot better place. I am twice elected. I listen to my constituents. I have done an excellent job for the people of Grants Pass. We have been effective. We have gotten results. We have not had any issues. And I would hear about them if we did. So I'm telling you that people are happy with the job I'm doing currently. I have the most relevant experience to the county commissioner position, being at city council. I would say that from the current commissioners and from the rest of the panel here, I would be your candidate that would change things. I don't know that many of these candidates would be able to do that or want to do that. There's a fair amount of candidates up here that are friendly with the Good Old Boys Club. So if you want something different than what's happening now, I would ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, Jordan DeHarty.
So, I am here solely to put myself in a position to represent everyone as well as possible. I'm from Josephine County, and I've lived in almost every single part of it. I've lived in Tequilma, I've lived in Cape Junction, Selma, Grants Pass, all over Grants Pass, Merlin, Murphy. I moved a lot when I was young. I've seen the best parts and the worst parts of this county. And this county is a beautiful, beautiful place. And I truly do believe that we have everything that we need to have prosperity in this county. And I think we've brought up and we've talked about many things that affect this county. And I think there's many, 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 many more that need to be talked about, that need to be changed, that need to be addressed. He's talking about how no one here, many here, may not change things. I would do anything I can to change anything that needs to be changed. I think that's the purpose of being a county commissioner, is to talk and reach out to as many people in this community as possible to make the right changes for this community. Not make the changes that I personally want. I'm not here for what I personally want. I'm here for what is best for the people of Josephine County, the people that I spent time with growing up, the people that I see every single day. No one else. None of them. No one currently working in the government. the people of this community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes our program. On behalf of the Grants Pass and Josephine County Chamber of Commerce and the Daily Courier, we appreciate all the candidates taking out the time of your day to be here, and all of the people in the audience and online. This is recorded, so you can share it. It will be on the Chamber's YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. Thank you so much.
John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Come to the other one.
I should have come to the other one. If I,